welcome to issue 245 of Critical Encounters, a podcast about Marvel Champions, a living card game by Fantasy Flight Games. Here we take a good look at the most critical piece of the game, the encounter sets. We'll discuss those poorly understood characters, unfairly labelled villains, and their various plans to shape humanity and benefit the planet, as well as those so-called heroes intent on thwarting them. I'm one of your hosts, Ray. G'day, and joining me tonight is Daniel. How you going, Daniel?
Oh, welcome back, Ray. What a delight to have you here again.
I love it. I love being here. It's good. I might just stay here. Mike is Mike. How you going?
Great to see you again, Ray. It's a long flight for you.
It is. Yeah, jet lag is a vicious mistress. I'm fine though. I'm up vibe. I'm excited. I'm caffeinated. Rounding out, of course, the troop of merry hosts is Steve. How you going, Steve?
Good. How's it going? You said good day at the beginning, and you just made my night, so that was great.
And now, Mike, everyone knows now our secret lair is not in Australia. Good work.
Oh, what a shocker.
Surprise.
Smoke and mirrors.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, There is a voice, Ray, that you have heard at least once on the show. Ray, why don't you remind the folks like who you are, where they could find you on the web? What would you say you do around here? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, look, I just want to kind of preface it. I've kind of gone into a chrysalis and come out like a dodgy butterfly or something. I do a lot of podcasts, of course, Into the Night, the Moon Knight podcast. Everything to do with Moon Knight. To know her is to fear her, a Spider-Woman podcast, which is currently on hiatus. Saren and I just scheduling issues and just stuff going on. So hopefully we'll be back soon. There's a Predator and Prey podcast, all about the Yautja for those that love Predator and that franchise. And the last Tuesday of every month, I jump on the Capes and Lunatics network and discuss Scarlet Spider. We'll be slowly discussing more Scarlet Spider, but also Peter David stuff. So X Factor will come in, one of my favorite all-time story arcs. And finally, when I do mention that I have become a beautiful butterfly, is because I have been totally bitten by the bug that is Marvel Champions. So I do Ray Plays games. It's relatively new, within a year, and I just do playthroughs, solo playthroughs, or two-handed playthroughs, or multiplayer playthroughs. Of Marvel Champions, but also other games like Marvel Legendary, Final Girl, and Legendary Encounters. So, yeah, that's keeping me busy, but I just love the game. So, I must say my podcasts have become less frequent, but they're still around. So go check them out.
Yeah, and we'll put a link in the show notes to your YouTube channel so people can go check out the gameplays. A lot of fun going on there. So
Yeah, no, it's been a lot of fun. It's a nice learning curve as well. Loved deck build, or still do love deck building. Obviously playing the game. But yeah, you'd be surprised how many games don't make the cut. I guess I do post up some losses, of course, but sometimes there are a lot of losses that I just don't want to post up. So yeah, it's been fun.
But those are the things we want to see.
I know.
We want to definitely see the villain win, so it's okay.
Well, yeah, actually, it's not only that. It's actually we all know this, like errors, like in the game. You can make errors here and there, and you can make up for it, later on. But sometimes I get a little bit too perfection-y, and if I've made a mistake and I see it on the run through, like when I review the tapes, like I can't put that up. Yeah. So I'd replay the game, trying to make it as clean as possible.
But that's probably a mistake everyone else has made, and you can teach us through it.
Exactly. No, I mean, that's true. And speaking to I love the community as well of Marvel Champions. And yeah, others have said as well, like, you put the mistakes on because people that want to, like, or stumble onto your playthroughs, it's a lesson that they can learn as well. And perhaps it's something that they've glossed over and don't know. But I do try at least to put editor's notes in the show description. Yeah. So it's kind of highlighted. Having, said all of that, and with my jet lag still up in flux, I'm going to say, Daniel, what is on your mind today?
Ooh. Oh, wow. Yeah, thanks, Ray.
No worries.
Now, Mike, did this come or Steve, does this come to us via email? Where do we get this?
This is an email from
All right.
a friend of the show here. So
From friend of the show, Moss Timmons. We know him. We knew him originally as Mark, didn't we, guys?
we did. We may have been
feel like
pronouncing
we
his
called
name
him-
wrong.
I
That's
think it's
clever
from his-
use of the royal we there, Daniel.
Yeah. By the royal we, I mean Mike. Mike always said it
Uh-huh.
wrong, and we just followed him. I think we just looked at his Discord handle and called him Mark Timmons.
Right.
And even that isn't what it is. Discord handle. But anyway, he gave us a soundbite to say that his name rhymes with ASS. I don't know, we're a family show.
Language, please.
If he were from here, he'd know then his name was Mass Timmons. But he
Moss.
said it's Moss Timmons.
Moss Timmons.
All right.
Moss.
So,
Yeah, makes sense.
But yeah, he's from around your neck of the woods, Ray, I'm pretty sure. All right. He's got a quick question for us. He says, what do your Discord names mean? We hear them at the end of every episode, but as far as I know, you've never explained them. Are there any fun stories attached? Yours in minionism, Moss Timmons.
I think I'll go first because mine's the easiest.
It is pretty easy. But also, Mike, before you go, there are plenty of places in the nerdverse where you and I and Steve have said where these are from.
Possibly, but
So-
I don't think we've ever talked about him on the show, though.
Way back in the day, I'm sure I explained it on something. Maybe not here, but
You explained it off
Yeah,
air. I
Maybe
remember.
it's okay.
I know where your conversations were, and I know they weren't recorded.
He was listening to you, Daniel. He was listening to you.
Well, bless him.
That is the story. If you're going to tell it, I think you go last because I do want to lead into that. All right.
Okay.
So yeah, mine's easy. Wandering Took, because on Discord the only forum I was on was the Lord of the Rings one, because I was a fan of Lord of the Rings, the card game. I just wanted something fun that wasn't my real name because I have a really, really popular name. And as it turns out, there's also a lot of Tukes on the forum. So, whatever. Total missed opportunity is that I should have spelled Toque like the Canadian hat. And I feel,
Yes.
I kick myself every time. I think I'm going to redo my avatar now that I think about it. Maybe give my little Toque a Toque.
There you go.
Yeah. Ray, what about yours?
Mine's a little, kind of straightforward as well. Ray Pod. I know a lot of friends, they end up just calling me Ray. I don't know why they repeat it. Maybe because it's too short. Ironically, I shortened it because my real name is quite long, Ronaldo. So I made it Ray, but they've decided to, add another syllable in there. So it's become Ray and Pod because, as you probably heard before, I was deep in podcasting. I still am, but I just love it. So yeah, just call myself Ray Pod.
Okay. So I'll go next because Daniel apparently needs to go last here. So Vardayan, okay, way back in the before times, in the 1994, okay, way back in 1994, I joined a mush. Do you guys remember what a mush is?
Multi-user
shared hallucination.
Sure.
That's what we used to call it.
Oh.
So it was like the precursor to your MMORPGs, completely text-based. You dialed into this thing, you connected to a screen that described where you were. Okay, so once you were in, you saw you were in little rooms and you could move from room to room. There was no graphics. It was just text. And I joined a mush called Elendor, which was a Lord of the Rings Middle-earth mush. And I originally joined that as an Uruk-hai under Saruman's control called Morkarag. He had the Black Fang, and he drooled all over himself, and it was a ton of fun. And you would just role play. You just find somebody else, and you just type in what you did, and they typed in what they did, and there's no DM or anything like that. You just role played. And eventually that orc died, and I wanted to stay in the Isengard area, so I made a Dunlingdon character, Vardayan, based off the word Varda, who's like the one of the Valar of the sky, but I had to make it sound Dunlingdon, right? So I had to add this little Gaelic twist to the end of it. And he was a spy for Saruman. He was like a Grima Wormtongue. And I would travel to Bree, and I would go up the Anduin, and I would mess with the Bjornings and the Bree folk and things like that. And I knew Saruman was a bad guy even then, and I knew about the orcs like my character did and all this fun stuff. And, you know, I had a great nemesis. Somebody was always trying to, you know, defeat me, and he played as a... His cover story was he was a grave digger, so he'd carry a shovel around and he'd beat you with his shovel, and he would smuggle stuff through in his coffins places. And then eventually he got a disease that was killing off the orcs, but I wasn't an orc, and it made me into an albino kind of guy because I really, really liked the look of the character Arthas from World of Warcraft 3, if you remember that video game.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I used that.
We're learning a lot about Steve, everybody.
Yeah,
I used that
this is
picture for my
amazing.
avatar for Vardayan for ages. The picture of Arthas was Vardayan, and that character, I just loved him. He became like Saruman's right hand man in that version of Middle Earth, and it just stuck. So like I always just use him, and nobody else really has it. If you get it on any gaming platform and you type Vardayan in Vardaen, it's me. There's no like. So hit me up if you see me. So
That's amazing.
Wow.
Boy, the deep dive we took into your psyche just now.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and like I had to
Delicious.
look up. I had Merps books. Remember? Do you guys ever play Merps, Middle Earth role playing? And that had like the Daein in Kotus, which was like a Dunlingdon cult, and that's where I took the Daein part from. And then this far, I was really into like chopping up the language to use it as I felt saw fit and stuff. And
I
that
love
guy
how
came
long
out of
you've
it.
been a nerd.
Yeah, and I played that character for ages on that mush thing, dialing in every night, typing away what you do. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I wonder if it's still up.
Got to be. It's archived somewhere, man. You've got
yeah.
everything you've ever said. You could write your novel from there.
And right from the beginning, I was a villain, so always been the villain.
Yep, always.
That set the tone.
Yeah, misunderstood villain, right? I mean, Saruman's
You're just trying to do better.
Yeah, do better. All right, Daniel, how about yours?
Oh boy. Yeah. Speaking of delving deep into psyche,
I will.
Listeners might remember a song that I did, that I wrote for Daniel. Had him do.
Which you, Mike, said was the most obscure reference that people wouldn't get.
Well, people wouldn't get why it was.
Well, or what the source material was, because the song was so different and no one actually knows that song. So
Loki's back. He's causing lots of trouble. Taylor, Loki's back. You better think fast, cause he's conjured up a double. Hela, Loki's back.
Oh, they know the lyric. Okay, my boyfriend's back. They know the lyrics to My Boyfriend's Back, kind of.
Kind of. All right.
Why would I do that, Daniel?
Yeah, I'll try to make this brief. So
Please don't.
I'm really intrigued.
In the 90s, I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Guinea, West Africa. And that place at the time, and I'm sure still now, was a malarial zone. And so volunteers had to take this drug called mefloquine. Now, mefloquine was great. I only got malaria once, so that's a good thing. But it gave you intense dreams. So if any of our listeners have ever been on mefloquine for any reason, I'm sure they know, like the whole idea of like dream is sort of video games and just absolutely far out phantasmagoria. Like lots of volunteers would talk about their mefloquine dreams when we got together at various times. As a Peace Corps volunteer, you talked about your dreams and poop. That was basically
say the bathroom.
And so, well, one of my dreams was incredibly vivid and totally real life. And I was a famous rock star. And in the dream, I was walking down the street and I saw a marquee at a stadium that I was playing at. And the marquee said, live tonight, Big Foam Loaf. And in the dream, I had become famous because I had done really kind of moody, slow acoustic cover of the song "My Boyfriend's Back and You're Gonna Be in Trouble." And so I woke up from this dream. Another thing about Mephiquin dreams is that you kind of retain them. So you would wake up and you'd be in this weird kind of sweaty haze, because it was where I lived at that first year when I had this dream stuff. It would routinely be 45 Celsius. It was hot.
Yeah.
And so you'd wake up in like a pool of your own sweat, and you still retain these dreams. And so I just shot out of bed, and I had a piece of chalk, and I wrote "Big Foam Loaf" on the wall of my apartment so I wouldn't forget. And I wrote it like 8 feet long. Like I wanted to remember this. And since then, like, and even in Africa and in Peace Corps, like, I had a band, and speaking of poop, the band's name was Soft Stool. So that was cool. And and we would play live at places, and then we would be introduced, because like it's kind of like New Jersey in the way, like, you can't go without your people being introduced as they go on stage. So it'd be great to hear like these African DJs being like, "And now welcome to the stage, Big Foam Loaf." And I was like, oh, this is exactly what my dream was. It became real. And so when I got back to the States, and the internet world was opening up, because like when I was there wasn't such a thing. And then I came back in this life. That was my handle everywhere I was. I was just Big Foam Love. And so that's the story. It's a drug story.
Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, in the dream, it was just so real. Like I even got up, I grabbed my guitar, like after writing my name in chalk. I'm like, I think I can figure this song out. And I wanted to be famous with that cover.
Wow, cool.
And then I waited 20, 30 years or whatever until Mike wrote me that song.
Yeah, I'll never listen to it the same way again.
The minute you told me that story, I started writing. I distinctly remember this conversation. It was after one of our Twitch. We had a couple of guests on, and I had a piece of paper beside me, and I had my original notes just going.
And I remember being on Critical Encounters. We're Critical Cardboard Rings.
You have been on this show.
Do you remember, Mike, the first time we got to play with Brandon and maybe Sean and on Cardboard of the Rings in one of their playthroughs? But I had sent in a Caldera deck for them to talk about, and Brandon talked about my name, Big Foam Loaf, and he delightfully said, "I had a Big Foam Loaf once," and I was just so overjoyed with that. So that's the story, Moss, of our names. I hope you enjoyed them and you learned a little something about us.
Yeah,
I want to change my name now. Those stories are great.
Well, Steve, we got something ending tomorrow, don't we?
Oh, we do. Yeah. Oh, I see you're transitioning right out of that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we're not here just to talk about clever names and origin stories of these.
I thought we were.
But
yeah.
Come on now.
Luckily, we didn't pick any stupid names, because when you pick a name when you're youthful, you have to stick with that name.
Yeah, that's right.
You die. So
yeah,
they're not
Big
the
Foam
worst.
Love, not a stupid name. Thank you very much.
That's pretty good.
All
So,
right.
ending tomorrow. Our Pools Giving contest ends on the 20th. So if you're listening to this, the day this show comes out, or possibly the day after this show comes out, you still have time to enter our Pools Giving contest. We are ending it on November 20th, 2024. You have to have submitted your entry via our Facebook or Discord links prior to me setting the show notes up and us recording on the 20th at night. So get it in early, sometime in the afternoon Eastern Standard Time, something like that, because that's usually when we close things down. So you still have a chance to win a Deadpool pack. In fact, we are giving away multiple Deadpool packs.
Nice.
Yes. So there's a chance there. Check out the Google
That is
form.
awesome.
It's real easy. Just poolize any card you like, and off we go. So,
And I imagine we'll have multiple gracious people to thank for that, right?
yes, we do. We have. We'll wait until we give them away,
Yeah,
and then we'll
absolutely.
thank those people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sure. All right. That's that. What are we here for? We are like 85
That's the
minutes
real
into this episode, and we have not talked about anything yet. Ray, you are here because you've been spying for us, And we have a secret dossier we want to do about a big metal guy who probably has his own big foam loaf.
Wow.
I'm sure he does.
Colossus, right? You're going to talk to us about Colossus. So
Yeah,
do we know how to work around this guy?
Yeah, look, Colossus is one of the best X-Men, I reckon, one of the most popular ones. Consistently rated, in the top 10, top 20. Look up the stats. I don't have them here with me. But anyway, Colossus is
Ray, we just make up stats here. That's
yeah.
all you need.
Good.
Yeah.
That might help me later on.
I mean, he shows up in the Deadpool movies, and we're giving away Deadpool stuff, so it seems like this is somewhat fitting, even. So,
yeah, absolutely. Everyone knows through the movies or through the comics, he can transform into organic steel. Name's Colossus. Real name Pyotr or Peter Nikolaevich Rasputin, and he first appeared in Giant Size X-Men #1 in May 1975. So he came in on the second wave of X-Men. We had the OG X-Men, which was Cyclops, Iceman, Jean Grey, Beast, and Angel. They've been the X-Men for a long time, and over 10 years later, we get the second wave, which included Colossus, Nightcrawler, Wolverine, Storm, I think Banshee, and Thunderbird, who was the father of Warpath. So they were the new fresh blood, and it kind of was a little bit of a shift as well. They were all international. So you had a Canadian Wolverine, you had German Nightcrawler, Russian Colossus. So this was a shift, I think, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby decided to do, and it was a good one. Anyway, so I've done my secret dossier. I've broken it down into topics. And the first one is obviously his powers. And as I mentioned, he transforms to organic steel. Now, his steel is actually similar to a real-life metal, osmium, symbol OS, and atomic number 76. And I'll just read it here. It says, it is a hard, brittle, bluish-white transition metal in the platinum group that is found as a trace element in alloys, mostly in platinum ores. Now, osmium is the densest naturally occurring element, and it is also one of the rarest elements in Earth. So, they picked a good one, I think.
Wow.
He's not vibranium, he's not adamantium, but he's a pretty strong metal, like a real-life metal, or similar at least. So when he transforms, look, Pyotr is pretty big, by all rights. He's 6'7" as a human, in his human form, and he's 250 pounds. When he transforms into steel, he gains a foot. I don't know how that works, but he is now 7'7", and he's close to pretty much 500 pounds, which I do believe is about 226 kilos. So that's pretty heavy.
I feel like he should be heavier.
Yeah, I mean, I think Wolverine is actually nearly as heavy, I think, with his adamantium skeleton. The Hulk is I think the Hulk's about 700 or 800 pounds. So, yeah, wow. I mean, for big hitters, he's a lightweight, so to speak. And his mutant powers, it transforms his whole body, right? So he can't transform just a head or an arm or, a leg. It has to be the whole thing. Now, interestingly enough, when he is in his armored form, he doesn't need to eat, drink, or even breathe. So this gives him, the possibilities are endless. I was thinking about this just before we went on air, and in the official handbook of the Marvel Universe, there's usually something like durability, and say the Hulk, he can perform at peak condition for like a day or something before fatigue poisons kind of get into his system and he starts to tire. I don't think with Colossus that works at all, because he doesn't need to breathe. So he would not, I'm assuming scientifically, he wouldn't be building up amino acids at all. So he could pretty much go indefinitely.
Seems like it.
Yeah.
Now, can I ask a question? In the movies, do you ever see him not metal?
Not in the Deadpool movies, no. In X-Men...
In the X-Men you do, though?
Yeah, 1, 2, and 3 maybe. Or 2 and 3, yeah, definitely. Right. Yes.
Yeah, you don't get a lot of him in the original X-Men movies. He's still a kid. They're like, Wolverine's here, take the rest of them, get him to safety, and he armors up, and then they flee. So maybe.
it's really weird because, yeah, as I mentioned, he came in that second wave, and Nightcrawler played a big part in X2, and obviously Wolverine being Wolverine, and Storm as well. So Colossus seems to have got the short end of the stick there when it comes to translating onto the silver screen. But anyway, he's still pretty good. The official handbook of the Marvel Universe, the Master Edition, says that in his human form, his strength, speed, and agility are at a level of an athlete. So he's actually, he's quite fit, someone that does intensive regular training. When he's in his armored form, he's got class 100. So just put that in perspective. Spider-Man has about class 10, which means he can lift about 10 tons. He's pretty strong, Spider-Man. Class 100 are the likes of Colossus, Thor, Hulk,
Dung Beetle.
Oh man.
Yep.
What? Yeah.
But he's actually like a 10th the strength of Dung Beetle.
Oh, Dung Beetle. Oh, that's why he rocks, doesn't he? He's the strongest living animal.
Yeah.
You're right. Far out. I never thought of that.
Sorry, Steve.
But yeah.
Truth is painful sometimes.
Okay.
But class 100 also means that he can lift in excess of 100 tons. So the Hulk, his upper limits are unknown. It can actually go way beyond. Colossus, they think he's not as strong as Hulk, but he can certainly, lift at least 100 tons, which is pretty good. Also, interestingly enough, as his character developed, like when he was a teenager, he had class 70. During the Mutant Massacre saga, he actually got gravely injured, which I will go into that a little bit later. But Magneto actually realigned his cells, and in doing so actually augmented his power. So he became even stronger after that little event.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, he's strong. I mean, he gets even stronger. We know, I'll get to it as well, with Sitarak, which is amazing as well. His fighting skills are pretty good. He gets training from Wolverine, who's the best there is at what he does. He gets judo training from Cyclops and sword fighting from Nightcrawler. So he's pretty well rounded. Although you don't really see him with swords or any firearms and stuff. He's just a big bruiser. He can withstand great impacts, of course, large caliber bullets. He can fall from great heights. Electricity doesn't hurt him, and he's immune to certain magics as well. He's got great resistance to temperature, hot and cold. But again, I've got another little topic about running themes with Colossus. But rapid supercooling can damage him because he's metal, I guess. And there is one vulnerable aspect to him. He is vulnerable to the anti-metal. It's listed as Antarctic vibranium, but I think it's just vibranium. So whenever he goes near vibranium, his mutant powers just shift and he goes straight back to his human form. So that's some sort of aversion to vibranium. So maybe not a good ally with Black Panther, I'd imagine. And finally, later on he does become the avatar of Sitarak, and we know the avatar of Sitarak is Juggernaut in most instances, but Colossus at one point became the unstoppable Juggernaut as well. So that was a really, really fun
Weird
series. Yeah.
What did Juggernaut think of that?
Well, he became something else. He ended up. I'll bounce to it now. He was serving this god called Serpent, who I think is kind of like Set in the Egyptian, deities. And he became someone called what was that? He was like Kurth. What am I saying? He became like an avatar for Set as well. So he lost his Sitarak rights. And what happened is Colossus struck a deal with Sitarak and said, look, can I have that power to beat Juggernaut? And Sitarak said, yeah, because Sitarak's a god, and why not give it to him? So, so for a while he did have the Sitarak powers, which again made him even stronger. And he had this nice, peculiar little power set that made him immune to like motion or like stopping, which makes the Juggernaut unstoppable. So he can do that whole momentum thing that we have with momentum counters as well. So that happened during the Fear Itself saga. Now, a very quick origin, because there's so much with Colossus. So I've just tried to pick little things here. Born in Ust-Ordinsky Collective in Russia. He's one of 3 children. He's got a brother, Mikhail, who is a cosmonaut, and also a mutant with weird kind of energy warping powers. He went off into space, came back. He was the only surviving member of his crew. He went mad. There's a whole story with him there. And his sister, Ilyana, who's also known as Magic, that we have in the game as well, which is pretty cool. And also, interestingly, in the 2006 storyline Bloodlines, it is revealed that Colossus and his family are relatives to Grigory Rasputin, who is actually a mutant, was actually a mutant, and a Romani woman named Elena. So that was the family tree. So yeah, that kind of is a pretty cool way of indirectly explaining Rasputin, in our real life history and his mystical, influence he had on the Tsars. Yeah. So Colossus's power was manifested at a young age when he saved Ilyana from a runaway tractor on their farm, and this caught the attention of Charles Xavier, who went over to Russia to enlist Colossus, along with, as I mentioned, that second wave of Wolvie Storm. He enlisted Colossus to help save the original X-Men who were fighting Krakoa, which is the living island. So that was pretty much the story of his first appearance in Giant Size X-Men #1 in 1975. Tying it with his obligation, early on at least, he was constantly homesick. And this was the whole thing because Professor X brought him over to the US and he agreed to be part of the X-Men, but he really loved his mother, Russia. And he really is a sensitive soul. He's largely seen as a moral compass to the X-Men, the guy that has the heart, and the guy that he doesn't really, he's not prone to kill, although he has actually killed, but he's really not a violent person. He wants to use his power to help rather than to enforce anything.
Hey, Riptide, is Colossus a sweet, kind soul?
Oh yeah, sure.
Riptide, where'd you go?
Yeah, well, Riptide. Yeah, you're right. I mean, that kind of that culminated. That was yes, in the Mutant Massacre, when Kitty was gravely hurt by Harpoon. Actually, Colossus was fighting Riptide. Riptide was injuring Colossus to no end as well with his shards, and Colossus just killed him. Went a bit aggro and killed him after he heard that Kitty was hurt. And having said that as well, he has this relationship with Kitty Pryde, aka Shadowcat. They were together early on, but that kind of quickly fizzled. But they've remained like good friends, and that I guess explains his ally card, Shadowcat. They're pretty good. They're not an item, but they're just very close. He's had other relationships. One with an alien, Zaji, during the Secret Wars. And he ended up kind of walking away from that because he was kind of having feelings for Kitty. And he got angry and ended up having a fight with Juggernaut in a bar. And also he had another relationship with Nureel from the Savage Land. Again, there's a whole story to that too. Now, this other topic, running themes, as I mentioned, all superheroes, they tend to recur these things that happen to them over and over, like Superman, stopping a speeding train, jumping over buildings, that sort of thing. With Colossus, I feel he tends to get injured a lot, and I think that's because he's meant to be the big guy that doesn't hurt. He's the big bruiser. So I think writers have many writers have gone, okay, well let's have him injured, or let's have him lose control of his form, or have him brainwashed, and you see that time and time again with Colossus. So he's been brainwashed a couple of times. First time by Arcade, which we get that modular set in Jubilee's pack. Yep. And he became the Proletarian, fought the X-Men. They counter-brainwashed him back. He had, as I mentioned before about the super cooling, he had been gravely injured by Pyro and Avalanche from the Brotherhood. So Pyro heated him up super hot, and then Avalanche used his earthquake powers to shove a whole tank of liquid nitrogen on Colossus and quickly froze him.
Ooh.
Yeah, so he became almost like a statue, and he was close to just bursting, exploding. But thankfully, Rogue and a Morlock healer saved him from that.
I mean, unfortunately, remember where you are.
Of course, sorry.
Okay.
Silly, stupid Ray. Yes, of course. as mentioned, Mutant Massacre. As mentioned, that he killed Riptide, but he was actually gravely injured, and this was the moment where Magneto realigned his cells, and from that point on, he actually became more stronger. Unfortunately, a side effect of that was he was stuck in his metal form, so he could only go back to human form with intense concentration. And that may not seem like a bad thing, but I think practicality-wise, it probably would be. I mean, you want a bit of relief. You want to be able to hug someone, that sort of stuff.
Eat pizza. Yeah.
Eat pizza, not
Yeah.
break door handles as you walk into rooms. World War Hulk, the Hulk actually bent his metal arms backwards, and Beast had to invent a laser that actually superheated Colossus's arms for Strong Guy to actually reset them. So that sounds very painful.
Aptly named Strong Guy.
Oh, Strong Guy's
Daniel's
awesome.
favorite.
Oh,
Yep.
Yeah, he is absolutely awesome. Guido is his first name as well. How cool is that? In Fear itself, as I mentioned, and I'll get to a little bit of the details when Colossus becomes Juggernaut, look, eventually he loses his powers. And once he did, his innate powers of transforming into steel kind of went bonkers, and he was actually shifting unintentionally between flesh and steel, and bits of him would be flesh and bits of him would be steel. So he was having a lot of trouble with that. And what happened there, Cable helped him, and for a short while he became part of X-Force as well, because Cable had a device that actually stabilized him. Also, interestingly enough, it turned out that the real cause of that was some nano-sentinels that were injected into him by Dark Beast, again, from Marvel Champions. Now, comic books, everyone dies, so Colossus has died a couple of times. Why not? In the Fall of the Mutants, he died with all of the X-Men. Amazing saga there. Go check it out. All the X-Men died on TV, and they were all brought back by Roma, who is the daughter of Merlin, and she's the guardian of the Omniverse, so she's quite powerful. For some reason, she brought all the X-Men back and sent them to Australia, as you do.
Did you say the Omniverse?
Omniverse, yeah, not the multiverse, the Omniverse. So, yeah, I don't know how different that is.
Where people eat everything. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all of them at once. Yeah.
Yeah. So he died. He died and he was resurrected, but the whole world thought the X-Men were dead for a long time. And there was another saga, the Legacy Virus. Long story short, Magic, his sister, dies from the Legacy Virus. Colossus is very sad, of course, with that. Around about the same time, or maybe a little bit earlier, his parents are killed. So there's a lot of things happening to Colossus, poor fella. Beast again comes and saves the day. And he invents a cure based on Moira McTaggart's research, and Moira has been killed off as well. But one of the conditions for it is for the cure to be airborne and to actually effectively cure everyone in the whole world. The first user has to die. So Colossus does the self-sacrificing thing, injects himself with the serum. He dies, but the cure becomes airborne from his body, I'm assuming, and everyone is saved. So a very heroic end there for Colossus. He gets cremated and returned to Russia. So you guys are probably wondering, how do you come back from a cremation? Is that
Easy peasy.
I'm going to say.
Timey-wimey stuff? Yeah.
Yeah, not
Clone?
timey-wimey.
Clone.
Not clone. Well, kind of clone. Look, long story. Look, I'm not going to go into it. All I'm going to say is that there's a little bit of subterfuge. There's an alien named Ord. There's a company called Benetech, and there's the old bait and switch with a clone. You're right. So
Clones. Got it. It's not time stuff. It's clones with these guys.
Exactly. They're the two ones, aren't they? The two main things. Okay, and as we round out here, other notable adventures. I wanted to mention this because this is part of my recommended reading. Colossus went through the Siege Perilous. And fun fact, Siege Perilous, created by Chris Claremont, one of the great writers of the X-Men, named after the throne from Arthurian legend.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, so the Siege Perilous is a really funky device. You walk through it and you basically gain a new life. You have no recollection of what your past life was, and you just get spat out somewhere else. Anyway, when the X-Men were all believed dead, Psylocke, for some reason, Betsy Braddock convinced Colossus to walk through it with herself and Dazzler, and I think there's one other, I can't remember who. And he got spat out in New York as an artist, something that he always loved doing, like even in his real life. But he had this life as an artist, a quite successful artist in New York, not knowing that he could turn into metal or anything like that. So he kind of lived a pretty fun life there before shenanigans happened, and he remembered basically what happened. Sorry, what happened is the Shadow King, dastardly villain, met up with Colossus, brainwashed him or controlled him, tried to have him kill Professor X, and Professor X had to, unfortunately, abolish, I guess, the mindscape of his new life and revert him back to his old self. Yeah, so a little bit of
messing with the brain.
Yeah, bit of sweet and sour, I think, because
once again,
I think
Professor X, the ultimate villain.
Villain.
Exactly. That's why you love him so much, right? Again, I'm not going to. Again, this is huge history, but I'm just going to kind of end towards here. Colossus, obviously, been an X-Man, has been part of the X-Force for a little while, as I mentioned with Cable. He joined the Acolytes for a short time with Magneto, so he actually was part of them.
Okay.
He was just a bit angry. He lost Ileana, as I mentioned. His parents were killed, and he suffered brain damage, so he was stuck in his armored form again. And so he joined the Acolytes, but that was short-lived. But he stayed on and tried to actually turn them around from the inside. So, you know, he was only evil for a little bit. He also has joined Excalibur at one stage, and he actually formed a very good friendship with Marrow, who's another ally we know from the basic cards. He was one of 5 recipients of the Phoenix Force. This was during Avengers vs. X-Men. So Cyclops, Emma Frost, Magik, and Namor and Colossus all got bits of the Phoenix Force and became super duper powerful. He was, during Jeff Lemire's extraordinary X-Men run, he was one of the 4 horsemen of the Apocalypse. So he's done it all. And as I mentioned, he became the avatar of Sidorak. So Juggernaut became Kurth, the Breaker of Stone. That was the name. For Set, and as I mentioned, Colossus struck a deal with Sidorak to become the Avatar. So I guess questions as to where he is now. I'm not too privy. I don't do much reading of the current X-Men stuff, but I had a little bit of digging, and his brother, Mikhail, has popped up again to cause some trouble. So what I understand more recently is that Mikhail, he can energy warp, he can jump dimensions, he can change molecules, stuff like that. He's pretty powerful. He's actually controlling Colossus at the moment, and the writers, I guess, have made him different. Like Colossus, as I mentioned, was a moral compass to the team. Now he's actually quite sinister. He does killings, he does bad things, all under Mikhail's control. I believe he's broken hold of this control, and now he's kind of facing the ramifications of all his past deeds that he's done under the control of Mikhail. And finally suggested reading, as I mentioned, Uncanny X-Men. This was the era that I loved back in the 90s when I was reading them. 259, issues about 259, they're around up to about 280. And that encapsulates when Colossus goes through the Siege Perilous, and he has a life as Peter, the artist in New York. It's really fun. It goes into where Shadow King gets hold of him, and it goes up to the end where Professor X kind of rehabilitates him. So, yeah, that's Colossus.
That was great. Yeah.
Woof.
Yes.
That's how you research.
There's so much, but as I mentioned,
that's probably 2% of his comics. Okay.
Yeah. And as I mentioned, I've just name dropped the sagas, but if you're interested, any listeners, maybe just look up those sagas, like the Legacy Virus, Mutant Massacre. Fall of the Mutants is fantastic. That's when they all die. But yeah, there's so many great things. Yeah.
Thank you, Ray. Thanks. That was
good learning.
We're gonna have to have you on and do some lore for some villains.
Oh,
yeah. You get something like that. I was just wrapped in rapture listening there. It's like, oh, this is good. So
Yeah, he's
I
an
forgot you were
interesting
talking about
character.
a good guy. Yeah.
Yeah, he's one of my faves. Currently he's on my regular rotation for Marvel Champions. I really do love his gameplay and his mechanics. I think it's very thematic.
Okay. Well, why don't we look at some of these cards? What we normally do with these heroes is we're going to talk about alter ego. We're going to talk about the hero. We'll kind of talk about some of the cards that tick. We don't have to read every single one, but we'll go through in general how this works and what we have to look at when we're facing Colossus. And again, you can find Colossus in the Mutant Genesis box, and he comes with a precon of protection cards. Ray, why don't you read the alter ego and the hero card, and then we'll talk about how he plays from there.
Yeah, no worries. Pyotr Rasputin, alter ego. He's got a recovery of 4, and he has a mutant trait. There's a setup to him. When you start the game, search your deck for a copy of Organic Steel and add it to your hand. And he also has an alter ego response called Aspiring Artist. So after you change to this form, back to alter ego, shuffle a Colossus card from your discard pile into your deck. He's got a hand size of 6 as well, which is pretty standard, and hit points of 14, so he's a big bopper. In the hero side of things, Colossus, of course, he's got the X-Men trait, and his base stats read 1 thwart, 2 attack, and 2 defense. It says Colossus can have 1 additional tough status card, and there's a hero response called Steel Skin. So after you change to this form, so you change to hero, you give Colossus a tough status card, which, we'll see is kind of like currency for him.
Yeah, now he only has a 4 hand size in hero form.
Yeah.
Typical of those big fellas.
Right. If you have a lot of health, they don't give you a lot of hand size. So
Yeah. But he can make that up, like a bit later on, we can see.
His whole thing is, right, he's going to have 1 additional tough status card, so, you could have 2.
Yes,
and then,
which is really handy because unless you have piercing, that will take both of them off. If he does face an attack, it just takes 1 off, and he's still kind of like that unbreakable wall, So, really fun to do, and just working out how you get those tough status cards.
Right. All right. So here's one of the cards that it's gonna keep him armored up. Let's say, and he gets to start with this in his hand. It's Organic Steel.
Organic Steel.
And there's 2 of these. They give him 2, right? So it's a 2-cost upgrade. It has an energy resource with the superpower trait. Uses 2 steel counters. The hero response. After a tough status card is discarded from Colossus, exhaust this card and remove 1 steel counter from it. Give Colossus a tough status card. So,
yes.
Yeah, you can just kind of regenerate the steel, right? So.
Yeah, I just want to point out as well, because I know some players probably do fall into the trap. So it is a hero response. So it specifically says after a tough status card is discarded from Colossus, that's when you can actually use this card to exhaust and give him another tough status. So you can't play this and then just exhaust it and give yourself a tough status just for the hell of it. It has to be once you after a tough
as you lose one.
Card is, as you lose one, you have to get one. You can get one back. You can get one back. You don't have to, because it's not a forced response. So that's also handy too.
Yeah. He doesn't just have it. Yeah, if it just said exhaust and gain a tough, it doesn't work that way. You got to have toughs to make toughs. It's
exactly.
Money, I guess. Yeah.
There is one theme miss, and I totally understand why the designers did this, because it's a lot of words. But when he flips to alter ego, he should lose his tough.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Thematically, right? But look at all the words on that card. And
Mike, while he's a hero, he has.
No, it doesn't say the word while. There's no word wild there, Daniel. Well, however, if you do flip to alter ego and you have 2 toughs, you can't have them both, right? Because he can only have 1 additional tough in hero mode. If you flip with 2, you got to get rid of 1.
Okay, so he's just a tough guy, not actually tough.
He's still athletic.
You get a little of what you want, Mike.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Mike, give us this next card, because there's a few of these we got to get through before we can really talk about them, I think.
Okay, the next one is Iron Will. It is a superpower upgrade. Colossus gets +1 thwart. Woohoo! Go! Hero response. After a tough status card is discarded from Colossus, draw 1 card. Oh, that's actually really good.
Yeah, that's very good. This is one of the best cards for Colossus, and you really should be looking to put this down as soon as you can. Not only because it enhances his thwarting ability, but yeah, it's directly related to tough status cards. So when you're defending and you lose a tough status, this is what I mentioned earlier. Bang, you get another card. Or if you're facing a piercing attack, you get to draw 2 cards. Both.
Oh my gosh, you do.
Both
Yeah,
tough-
it doesn't
yeah.
exhaust. Wow.
Yeah, there's no limit to it. Just
Yeah,
hero.
so-
hero.
Wow.
Yeah, so you can end up with a lot of cards, which is pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, Petey's will is just as strong as his armored skin. He don't ever quit. That's what Wolverine says. So
Yeah.
Wolverine.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Good Wolverine there.
Yeah.
thanks.
So yeah, no, I love this card, especially. Yeah, I mean with the 2 thwart now, and then if you play something like Utopia, put in an ally, you can ready up Colossus. You can thwart away as well. It's not as bad as Thor or Hulk with thwarting.
2 thwarts not
As
terrible.
his one would
Yeah.
suggest.
Ah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, once he's up to 2. All right, Daniel. What about
Yes.
his muscles?
You want to hear about titanium muscles, don't you?
I do.
Well, they are a 2-cost upgrade with the superpower trait. Colossus gets a +1 attack. It's a hero resource. Exhaust this card to generate a fist resource for each tough status card on Colossus. Wow.
Yeah. Again, all related to tough statuses.
Wow.
You can be generating 2 resources if you want, just at once. So
That's
yeah.
Yeah,
a keep tapping strength card.
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
could
I
be.
find when I use I never get the 2 resources off of it when I want. Something about this card and playing with me, the best I generate is like 1. Sometimes I get 2. Sometimes I get 2.
Mhm.
But yeah, I always struggle. Sometimes it'll be like, oh, this produces nothing because I just got hit with a piercing attack or something like that. So yeah, I mean, still giving you the +1 attack, right? So he's hitting for 3, which is
Yes.
that's
Pretty good. Yeah.
That's Hulk. That's Hawkeye. That's Thor.
Hawkeye.
It's Hawkeye.
Exactly.
Yeah, right?
All the massive ones, yeah.
All the big
Exactly.
guys. Hawkeye.
Hawkeye. But interesting point here, though, as well. One of the things that people do raise with Colossus, and I guess is like maybe a design flaw, is that they want Colossus to be that big tough guy that can defend and stuff. And if you do use your toughs for currency, then he no longer is tough. If you're saving your toughs for something else, which is I guess the decision that you have to make is, do you want Colossus to defend for you, be the defender, or do you want him to really reap the rewards of having 2 resources generated from this card, or using your toughs for the events that he has. So yeah, it's a little bit of a it's divisive, I think.
Well, it's the thinky stuff that makes him fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah. All right. So Steel Fist, cost of 2, an event that's an attack with superpower trait. It's a hero action. It's an attack, as I mentioned. Deal 5 damage to an enemy, and you may discard a tough status card from your hero. After which you can stun and confuse that enemy. So that's pretty powerful. And Made of Rage.
$2, that's incredible.
That's
yeah,
good.
and there's three copies. Sorry, yeah, exactly, and 3 copies of that too. 2 copies of Made of Rage, which is his other attack, but it's not listed as an attack. It's more of an interrupt. I guess it's a basic attack. It is. It's a cost of 0. It's got the superpower trait, and it's an interrupt. So when you make a basic attack, you must discard a tough status card from your hero, and in doing so, you get +6 attack for that attack. And the attack gains overkill as well. So you have to spend your tough status to actually use this card. Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah, so there's where
Yeah.
his toughs are currency, right? You can hit
Yes.
for 5 and then pitch a tough for stun and confuse, or you can hit for +6, which could be a 9 basic attack
Yep.
and overkill.
Mhm.
So you're gonna plow through something and hit somebody else. So
Yeah, and as Daniel, you were mentioning the thinky pieces as well. So with Steel Fist, which is really good. And remember, in your alter ego, you can put these back. You put one of them back from your discard pile into your pile, so you can recur it. But this is really cool because you can. This is like pheromones, right? But you also pheromones and from Spider Woman, but plus
Yeah.
also her attack, Venom Blast. So it's 5 damage plus a stun and confuse. So it's pretty good. You can choose to whether not discard a tough and you just deal 5 damage. You can just keep on doing that and save your toughs for something else. So I like that choice that you have. Made of Rage is a little bit more restrictive, I think, in that you have to be ready, of course. Yeah, and you have to discard a tough status. So you need to prepare yourself for that. But if you're looking for your
That's
big
still
attacks,
a 0 cost 9 damage card.
yeah, I know. Yeah, not yet up to
So-
9 damage, or even 10 if you have combat training in aggression, or you even amp yourself
Lord,
up even
yeah,
more.
Of course.
Yeah. So yeah, it is conditional, but yeah, it's effective as well.
Mike, you're the protection player. What about this next one? How about the next two? What the
Yeah,
next
I
two?
was
Sure. Okay. Bulletproof Protector. Superpower is 0 cost event. So I was just looking at this like, oh yeah, all these superpowers are cost 0, so why bring that cost reduction superpower
Yeah.
card? Anyways, it
Yeah.
says discard a tough status card from your hero to choose either give your hero 2 tough status cards or ready your hero. And Armor Up is an alter ego action. When the villain activates, change to hero form, which then gives you a tough status icon. So, and that's when the villain activates, so you could still choose to be the defender.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
there's 2 copies of each of those, and they are your bread and butter. Punch me, just try it.
They're really good. I mean, yeah, I would say again, unsung hero would be Bulletproof Protector. In the case of, if you imagine, if you have Iron Will out as well, and you've got 1 tough status, you can discard a tough status, draw yourself a card, and give yourself 2 tough statuses back. So pretty powerful card to have if you want to replenish your toughs and you want to draw a card from 4 hand size to 5, which is like staple, right, for most heroes.
Yep.
So very good. So I try to recur these and Steel Fists. I tend to try to recur most when I play Colossus. I just think they're really good. Armored Up as well. Armor Up. I see people like this is a very good card as well. Like obviously it's used so you can flip down and get your hand size of 6, and then not gain any of the threat that comes with extra scheming, because you flip back immediately to hero, and then the hero will attack you in your toughened state. So it's a nice little way to get your hand size up. And it works well. I haven't exploited it that much as other people, but I know there's a deck out there that they try to recur Armor Up as much as they can, and just keep Colossus going down, like flipping down, getting the hand size of 6. So yeah, it can be. You can work ways around it.
Now they are in Armored Up. He's only half metal.
Yeah, maybe it's mid change. Yeah,
Mid change.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what
All right. Who's behind him?
Is that Squid Boy?
I think so.
Could be.
Could be. And the other one, I don't look.
It's like Harley Quinn, but that's the wrong IP.
I was about to say exactly that. Yeah. It's like, what
Can't
is
be
this
her.
artist? No,
Yeah.
not her.
Okay, he's got 2 extra cards there. Daniel, I think you need to read the next one as the resident artiste.
As the artsy guy. All right. This is Pietr's Studio. It is a $1 support. It has got the location trait. Alter ego action. Exhaust Pietr's Studio. Discard cards from your deck until you discard a Colossus card and add that card to your hand.
Yeah.
I didn't know Piotr had a goatee.
Yeah,
It looks like he does, doesn't it? Yeah.
Unless that's Bizarre Shadow, but it sure doesn't look like the other picture of him painting.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, he must have gone through a beard phase. Everyone does, don't they?
They
Yeah,
do.
This
yeah.
could be
You're right.
this could be that other life when he didn't know he was Colossus, because it is comic
true.
art.
He does hold the brush the same way.
Oh, is that comic art? Yeah, I can't recall that one.
It
yeah,
is,
but
yeah.
yeah, right.
What is he painting?
He's drawing a dragon, maybe?
The dragon?
I couldn't tell if it was a pterosaur from the Savage Lands or something. Yeah.
Oh, could be.
Oh, could be. I did have the Savage Land ties. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, the alter ego action. I mean, similar to
It's Miss Marvel, right?
Miss Marvel, Logan's Cabin. Is that the same as well?
It's kind of like Weapon X.
Weapon X, sorry. Yeah, Weapon X,
Yep.
sorry. No, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
good.
Which is, it's good. It's handy. It's probably something that I know. Well, at least I do. I play kind of mid to late game. Don't really need it. The other cards are a lot more important. And then if you have it late game, you can draw yourself 7 cards in Alter Ego, which is pretty good. But yeah, it is handy card. Actually, what I do use it for is as a buffer for Caught Off Guard. Put it down quickly. Caught Off Guard. Okay, yeah, I'm happy to lose it. Yeah.
I never played this card.
When you flip into Alter Ego, you get to shuffle a card back in. So eventually, you'll have a card, so you should never deck out at least from it. And there's all these cards now that are like, when you discard it, put it in your hand. So you could put White Fox in, you could put Digging Deep in.
Yeah.
You can hit multiple cards off of that, right?
True.
Yeah. I like that it, like, you don't have to do anything else, though. Some supports, you have to recover, you have to exhaust your guy, or you have to... This is just... The support is the support, does its own thing. So, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, I've heard people, as you mentioned, Steve, use Weapon X. A lot of people say Weapon X actually works really well with Colossus, better than Wolverine. So thematically, that's a bit weird, but it's essentially the same thing, right? So you can draw yourself 2 cards in Alter Ego, which is pretty good. You lose 1 health, but, hey.
Yeah, so you got to be careful you don't ping a tough off yourself.
Yeah, well, yeah, that as well. Yeah.
That'd be bad.
Yeah.
All right, he's got 1 card left, and this is his best friend here, I guess. Former... thing maybe Shadowcat. Kitty Pride, 3-cost ally, 2 thwart, 2 attack with 1 consequential damage. She's X-Men with 3 health. Shadowcat ignores the guard and patrol keywords and any crisis icons in play. Very much like her Shadowcat hero. Doesn't really do anything to play off of Colossus, but she's a theme hit for herself and gives him some extra thwart ability.
I was going to say that's her.
Yeah, ignoring patrol and crisis and helping him out when it comes to that makes sense. So
she saves solo Colossus.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes, she's the smart one. So smarter of the 2. But yeah, no, this is a pretty solid card. Any 3 cost, 2/2 base stats and 3 health is pretty decent. So yeah, but as you say, I mean, maybe with a signature ally, you'd probably want something more. But yeah, hey.
I don't know in this case. I mean, really, a crisis in solo Colossus is devastating.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know what else she would do, because she's not going to play on his toughs. So
no. Yeah. I don't know how that, because they're really chalk and cheese, aren't they? So
they are chalk and cheese. I don't know what that means, but they are definitely chalk and cheese.
I think that's the most true quip ever said on the show.
Sorry, what was that, Daniel? Did you?
Oh no, just something like this had to be what he had for, I think.
Yeah. There's just a little funny thing that, Colossus's signature ally is Shadowcat, but if you go to the Shadowcat deck, her signature ally is Lockheed. It's kind of like a big, rejection. Yeah. Yeah.
Oof.
Oh. Yeah. That's funny. I didn't really catch that before. Okay, so what we did was we put together a few decks. We'll talk quick. All the deck links will be in the show notes, and we'll post them. So we each picked an aspect, and we'll work our way down through. I'm going to go first, because mine's pretty basic here. Is the aggression deck. And, okay, so he has some good attack events. He's going to be defending, and he's got his tough and all that sort of stuff. Everything we've talked about. So I was like, what does he really need in his deck? He needs a little bit of resource generation. So like we talked about, I have Weapon X in there. I have the X-Jet in there and Martial Prowess, because this is the aggression deck. Couple Power of Aggressions and all 3, basic resource cards. So because his hand size is fairly small. What I wanted to have him do was to just be hitting all the time, right? It's the aggression deck. He should be punching. So cards like a couple of clobbers in there. So you can hit for 3, bounce it back to your hand, because it's cheap that way, right? We need cheap cards for him with a small hand size. A Moment of Triumph in there, so he can, that's the after you attack and defeat an enemy, heal damage for every excess point. So he could stay in hero form longer, even if he's taking damage. We can let him do that sort of thing. Because I didn't want him to have to flip if he didn't need to, or let him get beat up and then be able to flip. So I put something like toe-to-toe in there. Choose an enemy. He attacks you. It's gonna knock your tough off mid hero turn. You're gonna trigger all his upgrades and everything like that. You can deal damage to the enemy, so he's punching, and that's cheap. That's like a 1 cost, right? Which is what he needs. I put in superpower training, which is the side scheme that lets you go fetch an identity specific upgrade.
Nice.
It's 3 threat, so Shadowcat there can help him with it. Because I think if you don't get your organic steels or your iron will, he stalls. So I was like, how else can I go and fetch those things? So, superpower training side scheme, even if he's not the greatest at thwarting. And then the other one I liked for this was Ready to Rumble. So Ready to Rumble is the basic upgrade. After you change form, it's a hero response. You discard Ready to Rumble and you get to ready your hero. So he could attack. You could attack while you could start in hero form. You could attack with Made of Rage. You're exhausted now. You could flip to Alter Ego. You could trigger things like Weapon X, X Gene. You can do all these things. Use his studio. Then, the next turn or whatever, he can recover. He can Ready to Rumble. He can flip back and forth. So I was trying to hope that he'd get more readies with that, and on the same sort of mode is the limitless stamina, that basic event, 1 cost. If your hero has at least 14 printed hit points ready, there you go. So he can ready up and he can keep punching, he can keep hitting, that sort of thing. So I think he suffers if he has no steady, he has no stalwart. So if he gets stunned in an aggression deck, it kind of like takes the wind out of your sails. So I want to be able to ready up multiple times. So
yeah, and with their focus, that will just pay for limitless stamina. You have that, and you work them in tandem because it's a superpower as well, right?
Yep,
limitless stamina.
Yep, limitless stamina, X Gene, those cards are all in there. I try to beef them up with upgrades and stuff. So, and I've got some allies in there too. Beak, Forge, Ironheart, Marrow, Shadowcat comes with it, and Triage. So you can heal up a little bit. You can deal a little extra damage. Draw some extra cards. You can go fetch your 1 support you might want. Beak lets you remove some threat. So that's and they're all super cheap allies. So you can put them out.
Yeah.
And they might suck up a piercing attack for you, that kind of thing. So
true. Yeah, and stuff like Beak and Triage, who they come in, do their thing, and you can just use them to chump block. But I was about to say Beak is really underrated. I reckon if you can get your allies out, he can thwart for it's essentially 4. One thwart and then 3. Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah,
he's really good.
Yeah.
That's my aggression deck. Pretty
cool.
basic. He punches.
Yeah, it's great.
I did put in, and I'm not sure about this, that full body charge, because it does cost 4. So you have to have some resource generators out, but it deals 8 damage to an enemy. And then if your hit points get less than half, you can get overkill. So that's why some of the heals are in there, But I don't know if that's going to happen much. But I just 8 damage, you got to put it in. So
yeah, and the fact that I think with Colossus as well, you shouldn't be afraid to put in high cost cards, because there is a big possibility. Despite what you were saying earlier, Steve, that you can have a double resource generator in titanium muscles. So easily pay for 4 cost cards.
As long as you're not me, you'll probably be just fine with that one card. So,
yeah.
All right, who's next?
Should I go next?
Sure. Go for it, Ray.
Yeah. I went for a leadership deck, and I published this one on Marvel Champions DB. There's no Borja Moy in team. And so I thought this would be really fun with Colossus, because we're talking about Shadowcat, and although she doesn't do special things when she comes out, when she enters play, I still think she's pretty solid. And as you alluded to, with crisis icons with Colossus in solo could be very problematic. So I kind of built a sidekick deck with her in mind and kind of Voltron her up a little bit. Nice. So I've got obviously sidekick in there to get onto Shadowcat, but I've got a couple of copies of Danger Room Training and Inspired. So, in an ideal world, Danger Room Training and Inspired go on Shadowcat to give her up to 4 for thwart and attack, which is pretty good. And again, the important thing is she can thwart 4 off and bypass a crisis icon. So it just gives you that little extra time, and she can actually thwart even more, because I've got a couple of cards in side by side, which you ready up your ally and your hero, and you can choose to either heal them or you can add again +1 attack and +1 thwart. So she can go up to 5. And she is one that I will, obviously, with Sidekick, keep her out there. Flip down. Colossus has to flip down, so you're going to have chances to flip to heal, Shadowcat. So she can hang around for a long time. I've got some allies, of course, staple Professor X for big thwarting power. But alongside Shadowcat, I've chosen Sync as well. And Sync, I like to put out and just keep them out there. Just have them exhaust and then just ramp up Colossus again. So he can thwart for up to 3 then with Sync, or he can attack up to 4. Pretty useful. And by having the 2 allies, Shadowcat and Sync, out there, and then getting like another ally out there, whatever, I've got band together. So again, potentially a triple resource if you can get up to 3 allies, or maybe even 4 if you have Utopia, although band together maxes at 3. So yeah, a lot of resources there to help you. I've put in a couple of copies of Make the Call because generally going to maybe go through some allies that you wish you could have played. But with Make the Call, you can just grab them back from your discard pile, which is super handy. Also, Call for Backup, one of them. Again, side scheme. Again, if you have Professor X or Shadowcat, bang, you can get rid of that side scheme straight away and get another ally in. And what other things? I've got Angel Beast in there. Beast is a very powerful ally. Everyone probably knows. You put him into play, you can go grab a resource card, i.e. grab a double resource, or even grab a band together again. Give you another triple resource.
Yeah, nice.
And he thwarts really well. Mirage, I put her in there as well. She thwarts for 2. She has the ability, depending on what villain you play, to actually stun them. So that's pretty cool. If she doesn't, it doesn't matter. I mean, she still thwarts pretty well. And Pixie and Forge to grab cards from the discard pile or deck for Forge, just to give you a bit of versatility there as well, whether you want to play Utopia, whether you want just another resource card, or with Pixie, whether you need to put an ally out on front, or whether you just want to get another card and use it for something else.
What's too bad is Forge can't go fetch your Uncanny X-Men.
I know.
It's not an X-Men card, although it's called Uncanny X-Men.
I know. That's ridiculous. And I do have Uncanny X-Men, X-Jet, and Utopia. And Utopia is a broken card. I mean, you get to ready your hero or X-Men character, when you put an ally into play. Uncanny X-Men, again, super, super powerful. Get that in early if you can. Because that will make your allies cost 1 less and give them 1 extra hit point. So you can use Pixie to attack, and she won't get defeated. Pretty fun deck. I don't know. It doesn't work with everyone, but yeah.
I'm gonna give it a try. It looks great.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's Kitty becomes a beast.
Yeah.
Wild.
Big cat.
All right, who's next?
I'll go. So I chose Justice. Now I don't really like the yellows. It's not my thing.
So we make you pick Justice every time.
so I'll pick it. But with him, I was building it, playing off you got to thwart a 1. What can you do to buy time? So I went the confuse-y kind of deck. So he's either confusing them, or people show up to confuse folks, and then you beat the people who are confused a little bit harder. So that was my theme, was a confusion deck. And I know that those are harder to pull off these days,
Yeah, with Stalwart and Steady, yeah.
With all the cheaty villain things that are happening. But so all the allies coming out, so Banshee, they thwart, they confuse someone. Chamber takes minus consequential damage after attacking confused people. Cypher is the same, is going after confused people. Dazzler confuses them. So does Professor X. That kind of thing. Spider-Woman, who gets reduced. Her cost is reduced for every confused enemy in play. I think she's really cool. But it really is not a ton to talk about with this deck, because it is kind of generic in that way, I think, with concussive blows and
What? Sorry,
and
Daniel.
scare tactics and stuff like that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out as well, because like with all that confused as well, and obviously bear in mind the steel fists as well, it'd be pretty fair to say that you would be able to deal with steady villains at least. I mean, you can confuse them a couple of
Probably.
times. Yeah,
Probably,
yeah.
And it also, I think, allows Colossus to flip back to alter ego to generate all that stuff and then
Yes.
come back to hero more like
without
Yes.
having added all that threat. Yeah.
if you can confuse the villains and the minions, he's allowed to go back and forth and back and forth.
Mhm.
I like upside the head with this deck. That's a good call.
Upside the head is so fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can stun with it as well, right? If they're confused already, so that's
They're already
great.
confused, you stun them too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can steel fist the guy, then you can, that only costs
So
2. You can upside
this
the head.
The deck itself doesn't thwart anything, but it buys time.
Yep.
So like it's not doing justice-y things. So if you're relying on this deck to be your justice player and take 12 threat off of schemes, no.
It's pretending to be an aggression deck with all those
Exactly.
allies and full
Exactly.
like a butterfly.
Yeah.
It buys you time
That's
to
true.
just punch the dude in the face.
But at the same time, you've got mission training and you've got a lot of allies that thwart for 2. So there's enough there. There's enough there for them to take care of, some stuff.
I don't play this way, but I was thinking about being a solo player with this deck.
Oh.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
A laser trap I love because you can just leave leave it there, and then when you just need that little push, just thwart that off and bang, 5 damage or whatever, 5 per person damage.
So Steve will always bring cheating decks to Tuesday night where they can hit for 12 and thwart for 12 in one turn after playing 27 cards. So I figure Lay the Trap is there for him. When we need it.
Yep. So far, I like
awesome.
both of your decks a lot more than my little aggression deck, which I really struggle to build aggression. I mean, like he already punches and stuff. So
yeah. Colossus aggression, I think, is a bit hard because as you say, he's got enough punching power. Then it's like if you're solo, then how do you round out him with everything else? Like with thwarting and defending. So
yeah. It looks good, Daniel. Speaking of defending, Mike had to do the protection deck.
Yeah, I just had to, right? Okay, so here's the problem with Colossus is that if you look online, a lot of people have the same protection deck because it just kind of builds itself. So I didn't want to do that. I want to take this in another direction. So yes, you can pop it open. And
I was going to say, can we peek?
Yeah, can we?
Okay,
cool.
You can peek and then gasp at what I've done.
Oh my goodness!
Because there are 8 allies in this deck. Okay.
8 of them. Yeah.
There is not
is
even a
this
multiple to describe how many more allies that is from his deck.
Yeah. All right.
Wow.
There's a
Just when
few
you think
things
you know
going
the
on
guy.
here. What is missing from this deck is a lot of supports. I have defensive training. More on that later. But I want to look at the events. We'll start there. So this is called Colossus Protects Everybody. And the first event is probably the first one to be cut. It's Come Get Me, Bub. It gives you a tough status card for 0, which is why it's in there. But you do have to put a minion engage with you. Fine. We're going to forget the Colossus stuff for now because that's all gravy. Let's look at Deflection. When an identity would take any amount of damage from an attack, you prevent up to 5 and discard cards from the top of your deck. Yada yada. You have Powerful Punch. When an enemy initiates an attack, deal 4 damage to the enemy. You have Mutant Protectors. When an enemy attacks, you put an X-Men ally into play from your hand, and you exhaust it, and it's the defender. You have Subdue, which nerfs an enemy when they initiate an attack. And what is the common theme with all of those?
You stay ready.
You stay ready.
Yeah.
You don't even get attacked. All
right.
of these protect somebody else without you doing anything with your hero.
Yeah, that's very smart.
So Mutant Protectors is going to be the big one because unlike cards from other card games where you pay 1 to put an ally in, the ally stays in play.
Yeah.
So it becomes this really cheap way to get X-Men allies into play, hence the defensive training, which he can use to start recurring his recurring that event. So I threw in some allies that are either really good at defending or do something when they enter play. So Armor is tough, so he'll stick around. Gambit enters play and you can steal a card off the encounter deck. Nightcrawler's got his own defensive ability. North Star can cancel boosts. Polaris just enters play, gives you a tough status card. Professor X does his Professor X thing, and Rockslide retaliates and sticks around. So it's all.
So
really
Mike, are you primarily using your mutant protectors to deal with minions? Because these guys show up and defend a villain and will probably die, right? If they don't have
Well, armor's tough.
Armor's
other than
pretty
armor,
good.
like
Rock Slide's pretty 6 HP.
I
I
mean,
think that's,
Nightcrawler can
Oh, yeah.
ignore all
well,
the
like
damage.
someone like Gambit, when they enter play, look at the top cards, tuck it under. He's probably not going to stick around with that.
Yeah, it depends on the situation,
All right.
right? But if Ronin's trying to punch you for 8, I'm throwing Gambit in the way.
Yeah.
Screw his ability.
Right.
And
Well,
you know what? No one would blame you.
I think the smart thing as well, Mike, as you said, is that a lot of these do something when they enter play. So whether or not they survive, defending for you, doesn't matter. Like, if you happen to have Professor X in your hand and you have mutant protectors, put him on, because when you put him on, you can either confuse, you can either ready up another X-Men character, or you can stun a minion, and then he defends. And whether or not he thwarts, well, it doesn't matter. Like, he's defended, which is pretty cool.
Right.
And same
Yeah.
with Polaris. She can put on a tough to someone else, but she can defend and maybe die. Doesn't matter. At least
Yeah.
you've got a tough there now as well. Yeah, so
It's fantastic.
And naturally,
And-
I'm a fan of Polaris, so good work.
yeah,
So-
she's good.
With all of that, I mean, you can defend yourself. You have toughs that you're not using on other people. So let's put in taunts. So you can draw 3 cards.
Yeah.
Right? Resources, it's got the power of protection, because this is mainly just for playing protection cards.
Mhm.
You're probably, and I got 3 copies of Digging Deep, and that's because of Deflection.
Deflection.
And his studio. Listeners might be looking at this and saying, why aren't you putting in some of the energy or whatever upgrade resources? And the answer is Nerd Rage. I feed off it. That's also
I
why
think
it's 46 cards.
I think it's great how, like, experiment. Like, they are staples, right? But you don't have to. Like, there are so many options that you can do. Like, I've used a lot of defensive energy. Just one card. You draw a card. Sometimes you don't have to have doubles. Especially in protection, because a lot of them are cheap. Apart from the allies, they're all cheap.
Yeah, and keep in mind that the Digging Deep and Power of Protection are both wild icons, and they will combo with Nightcrawler.
Yeah.
I don't have much else that they'll combo with, but often the villain will have something, and it's just nice to have that wild icon, because the only other wilds in this deck are Shadowcat.
Yes. Yeah. True.
So there you go. Don't play this solo. I don't see it working very well. Play this with lots of people.
Yeah. I don't know. I'd love to give it a go in solo. See how it goes.
Yeah, I have not tested this. I'll say that. But it's an idea, and it looks fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Looking at these, so Mike, you have 46 cards. I have 44 cards. Daniel has 42 cards. And Ray has 40 cards. So, yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit of everything across the board.
Yeah.
Daniel's is pretty low. I'm surprised.
I know.
It's not. Yeah.
I was restrained.
Yeah. Good job.
Cheers. Thank you.
That's cool.
I don't adhere to that 40 card rule. I don't think we need to worry about that too much in this game. So.
Not in
Me
Marvel.
No. I mean, in multiplayer, happy to go way over. Solo, I don't mind going up to 42. It doesn't matter. It's not really that bad.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I will definitely link all of these. I really feel like mine's a terrible deck compared to the 3 of you guys. You got good stuff going on.
Have you played your deck?
Once.
Well, you've played yours an infinite number of times more than
More.
I played.
Okay. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. All right. I think that's Colossus. Villains, we're looking at hitting him with piercing. We need to overwhelm him with attacks. He's susceptible to stuns and confuse. He's got that small hand size, so any modular set that says discard random cards like telepathy, that's a good one versus him. Then he'll have very little cards to get started that can stall him out. And I think if we're playing anything that's got a lot of threat that adds up really quick, side schemes, he's going to struggle with that, even with, this Justice deck kind of thing. So what else? Anything else we need to talk about Colossus?
No, you know what? He's more fun to play than you would think he would be.
I
that
totally
makes sense.
agree, Daniel,
Yeah.
as well. I think a lot of people kind of just bypass him because they think they're probably either not happy with how he plays out. But yeah, he's surprising. So
He's
definitely
more
give him a go.
thinky than like a meathead tough guy. You would imagine that would be. So
Oh my gosh. Ray, It was so good to talk with you again.
Oh, yeah, it's
Thank
been. Oh, thank you. Oh, thanks for having me over. It was really good. Yeah, got to talk about Colossus. Got to, chew the fat. It was great.
Yeah, talk cards. This is great.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming on. You're welcome back anytime. You got somebody else
Thank you,
coming
sir.
up. You think, oh man, I really want to talk about so and so. Let us know.
Yeah, strong guy.
So-
Let's
Strong.
have
Oh well, we don't have him in the game, do we?
I know.
No,
We don't.
You have to wait a
Travesty.
long time for that till they come back to mutants. Who knows if that'll happen?
Yeah,
Yep,
right.
Yep. All right. Well, we will definitely link all of your stuff or some of your stuff. Definitely your Marvel YouTube channel for the folks to go check out.
Thank you.
Yes. All right, Mike.
Yeah, folks, show off your steel. What have you done with Colossus? Let us know. You can email us at criticalencounterspod@gmail.com. We are Critical Encounters on Facebook. You can find our YouTube, Twitch, or Patreon by searching for Critical Encounters Podcast. And on Discord, we are Vardane, Big Foam Loaf, Wandering Duke, and joining us tonight was our special guest, Ray Pod. If you like our show, tell your friends. If you don't like our show, tell your enemies. Shadowcat, take us out.
Come on, Peter, you big oaf. Your body's made of metal, not your brain.
I don't know how many artists watch or listen to our show, but his brush technique is poor. I'm just,
Well, he's a big oaf, right? So
but he's not, is he? He's like really sweet.
His
No,
hands are
he's
really
very
steel. He
sweet.
doesn't
He's
have
very-
His little popsicle.
dexterity
I love
is not there when you have metal skin, right?
But
Yeah.
he doesn't in that picture.
No.
Which picture?
Phantom Steel Fingers.
Oh, his alter
His
ego picture.
Studio or
His
the
alter ego. Yeah.
Computer is, what is it, Art Studio or something? I can't remember. What's it
Yeah.
called?
Computers.
His
Yeah.
studio. Just his
Yeah,
studio.
his alter
Well,
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure an
Yes.
artist did the picture. So
yeah.
that's true.
Like,
Maybe there's a
look at-
technique,
look at the
Daniel, that you
brush
don't know
tip.
of.
Look at
Well,
the brush
maybe-
tip, Mike.
Maybe it's an advanced technique. that
He's
we
like
just
a
in
don't know.
first
motion.
grader. He's like a
Art's in
first
mo-
grader pounding that thing into the.
The brush is in motion if you look at it.
yeah, he's
You can see the
he's
handles in
drawing
motion.
a rage.
He's just expressing himself, Daniel. Jeez.
He's a sensitive, sweet guy.
Never mind. I take it all back. Forgive me.